Washington, D.C., the capital of our country. Here, every branch of our government, under the direction of the President and empowered by the Congress, is moving rapidly to mobilize the vast productive power of the United States. We must meet the gravest threat ever to confront this nation and the other free countries of the world. And in the forefront of these government agencies is the Department of the Interior. The successful mobilization of our economic industrial machine requires vast amounts of raw materials, such as iron, oil, electric power, aluminum, coal, water, zinc, and copper. The Department of the Interior is primarily charged with the conservation and development of these natural resources. And the Secretary of the Interior is responsible for its administration. Mr. Oscar L. Chapman, the Secretary of the Interior.
Until recently, the natural resources of the United States seemed almost limitless. But 2 world wars and an expanding economy and population and the need for world reconstruction have made it necessary for us to draw heavily upon our natural resources, many of which are irreplaceable. It is now apparent that we must husband our resources and build up our military strength as fast as we can for a long struggle against powerful forces of aggression. We are short of time, and our industrial capacity, materials, and manpower are limited. In these circumstances, clearly first things come first. Business as usual in either public or private affairs is no longer possible. Our natural resources alone cannot guarantee victory for democracy in the long struggle ahead, but lack of them can mean defeat for our cause. So we're going to take you behind the scenes and show you some of the steps that are being taken to ensure the success of our efforts and why they are necessary.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. And so the Congress passed the Defense Production Act of 1950, and it was signed by the President. Interior's main defense job under this act is to see that we have the raw materials to keep our industrial machine moving in high gear. Expansion of steel capacity is now an urgent necessity if rearmament is to go forward on schedule. Full use of our steel capacity would require about 113 million tons of iron ore this year, an increase of over 10%. The Defense Minerals Administration seeks ways to meet heavy demands for iron ore and other minerals in the face of diminishing reserves. Besides iron, nearly 70 different metallic and non-metallic minerals are needed to furnish the sinews of our chemical and construction industries, munitions, production, transportation, and communications industries. Before World War II, there were just 7 minerals on the strategic list. Today, there are about 50. In the case of petroleum, we are in some respects better off than we were at the time of Pearl Harbor. We have more modern refineries, and distribution facilities have been expanded. For several years, drilling operations have been conducted at a relatively high rate, and during the first half of this year, domestic industry brought a new oil well into production every 22 minutes. Through the cooperation of the petroleum industry, we have successfully dealt with the first serious problem, a threatened shortage of aviation gasoline. While the productive capacity of the petroleum industry has been substantially increased since the outbreak of World War II, this increase in capacity is offset by a large increase in domestic consumption. Present spare capacity is of about the same magnitude as in the pre-war period. King coal is our primary source of heat and energy, particularly in industry. Shortages in the supply of this essential raw material would seriously impede our defense effort. During World War II, manpower was one of the coal industry's chronic headaches. As the labor supply tightens, we must make sure that enough men remain in the mines to maintain production at required levels. Distribution, likewise, was a serious problem during the last war. The Defense Solid Fuels Administration is prepared to assure that adequate supplies are made available when and where needed. Coal for the production of coke is indispensable to making iron and steel. Coke shortages slowed down steel production in World War II and have persistently troubled the steel industry in the post-war period. Water, once taken for granted, is now of foremost importance as a natural resource. We are in no danger of running short, but it takes 2 to 5 years to develop local supplies. The U.S. Geological Survey and Reclamation Bureau are planning ahead for increased water consumption. Few people realize that water is the most widely used of all industrial raw materials. It takes 50,000 gallons to make a ton of smokeless powder, 65,000 gallons to produce a ton of steel, and 600,000 gallons to make a single ton of synthetic rubber. During World War II, plans for at least 300 war plants and military establishments had to be changed or abandoned because of water shortages. Boulder Dam, built by the Reclamation Bureau, showed in World War II what harnessing our rivers for power, irrigation, and other needs means to defense and welfare. Electric power production is a vital use of water. Expanding power, both water and fuel, is the job of the Defense Power Administration. Hoover's power and water made possible the wartime development of Los Angeles, 300 miles away, with its great aircraft factories and hundreds of other war plants. Great transmission lines carry Hoover Dam power over deserts and mountains to other cities in California, Arizona, and Nevada. Power and water from Hoover Dam and Lake Meade, formed by that dam, serve dozens of camps and military installations in California and Arizona. Then, after the water from Lake Meade turns the great turbines at the Hoover Power Plant, it is caught downriver at Reclamation's Parker Dam, where it generates more power. It then goes on to furnish water to the rapidly growing population of Los Angeles and its neighboring 14 incorporated cities and towns, such as Pasadena. In addition, the All-American Canal carries irrigation water to change the Imperial and Coachella valleys from parched deserts to year-round garden baskets for the nation. The magic of reclamation irrigation water has transformed over 5 million acres of desert into fertile farms all over the West, growing crops to help feed, clothe, and defend us, with new homesteads for World War II veterans. Since the war, and in spite of the completion of huge installations such as Reclamation's Grand Coulee on the Columbia River, the Army's Bonneville, and many others, power demands have continued their upward spiral. Power from these dams, sold through Bonneville Power Administration, is giving birth to a new industrial empire in the Pacific Northwest. Electric power production in the United States is now at an all-time high. Expansion programs now being undertaken by private and public power agencies will provide a 12 million kilowatt increase in generating capacity. In light of present conditions, however, this will fall far short of meeting our needs. Electric power is one of the most important raw materials in the production of aluminum, and many thousands of additional kilowatts will be needed for the aluminum expansion program alone. Other mounting demands for electricity clamor for all of the new electric power capacity we can build as fast as we can build it.
And there you have it, an all too brief glimpse behind the scenes here in the Department of the Interior, but perhaps enough to give you some idea of the enormity of the task that faces this and every other department of your government in Washington and over the length and breadth of the country in meeting the present emergency. Our dependence on these minerals and fuels and raw materials is so great and our supply so uncertain that we are moving as rapidly as we can and by every means that ingenuity can devise to expand facilities, to step up production, find new sources, develop substitutes, and bring in increased supplies from foreign sources. It is a tough job, but the survival of a free world depends upon it. It will be done.
And so, Mr. and Mrs. America, winning this emergency is your job. This is how you are tackling the first big problems on the resource front through your Department of the Interior. Each and every one of us must get behind the job.